I think there's similarities of U.S. Muslim youth versus Muslim youth in Europe. But I think there's also big differences, and that's based on our society, our histories. I do believe that after meeting with several organizations, NGOs, learning about the complexities of European Muslim youth, I think the underlying core of identity, belonging, being heard, being respected, being valued, I think that's something that's the lowest common denominator for both. I think there's a difference in that I feel that in America, just from my opinion of what I've observed and also from the oral histories and the stories that we've collected of over 750 Muslim Americans, I think that it may be a little bit more easier to be Muslim and American and have both of those identities rather than in Europe, where there may be some issues with assimilation, integration, or even if they're fourth or fifth generation European Muslims, it seems like the platform or the ability for them to have those identities coexist may be at clash. Well, our short-term objectives is to collect, to show, to display the broad diversity of the Muslim American experience. At the end of the day, Muslim Americans are the most diverse demographic in the country, if not in the entire world. And quite often, unfortunately, they're also clustered as a monolith. And so our hope is to dispel those stereotypes and to shatter those stereotypes and to showcase the rich diversity of Muslim heritage. Regardless if you're from Europe, from the Middle East, from Africa, to East Asia, to Latin America. There should be pride in our heritage, and that's what we hope to continue doing. Absolutely. Art and activism goes hand in hand. And quite often, art goes beyond just a painting on a wall. Art, when it changes from being subjective to being objective, is when it becomes an action item. And through Mala, we've been able to not just showcase the stories, but carve out community programs that emphasize arts, culture, heritage, and pride. And by doing so, we dispel stereotypes, but also hone leadership within our own communities. And that's extremely important because having that come from that growth and built from within our communities, not coming from the outside in or from the top down, that's what makes the organization so unique and also so valuable. And this is where creativity can kind of also grow too. So not just with storytelling or arts, but films, music, cultural festivals. We recently did a Nowruz festival in Chicago where we celebrated Iranian, Tajik, Central Asian cultures and the history of Shiraz wine. We've done programming with museums, with institutions in the United States, the Library of Congress, Arab American National Museum we've partnered with. And it's really to showcase the diversity and the beautiful richness of Muslim culture. I think that it has been more of an issue of rhetoric that is divided for any minority group or for any group in general, whether you're Jewish, whether you're Christian, whether you're African American. Any type of division or hatred that's polarizing really needs to be it has heightened because of our political and social landscape. And the more that we can do to show similarities and to unify rather than divide, that's really the large picture of what needs to be done. With Muslim Americans, within the past couple of years, there have been a wonderful number of Muslim Americans that have run for office, that have been elected, which I think is a wonderful sign for leadership, but we still have a long way to go. Immigration, there have been issues with policies on immigration, especially from people coming from Muslim majority countries. That is actually something Mala has actually, we never pushed for, because we're not a political organization. But the interesting thing that I found was that after such policies or legislation would pass, the number of stories that we would get in would spike. So we had an incredible amount of stories of Iranian Americans who are very successful in their careers and being a part of the American fabric of society that unfortunately are part of that policy. That's a very wonderful question, and it's I think I'm just a reflection or a microcosm of the larger sample of what we've been able to show through Mala. I was born to Muslim parents. My father was from Kabul. My mother was Indo-Pakistani. They both recently passed away. And for me, I was born and raised as an American kid. Grew up in Chicago, went to Loyola University for undergrad, went to Roosevelt for grad school. My reality didn't come into play because I never thought of myself as just a Muslim kid. I was just an American kid going through the motions whose parents spoke different languages. And as I grew older, I also understood that my identity and my heritage is something that is very integral to me. And I recently had a son. He's 12 months old. And one of the things that we are teaching him is to speak Farsi, because it's extremely important for him to understand his heritage and his culture and his background. He should have pride in that, growing up in America. And, really, my experiences came professionally. I'm actually clinically trained as a psychologist. So my experiences were eye-opening because a lot of women were coming through my door and they were either Middle Eastern or South Asian, or they just came to me because of familiarity in the name, nothing more. And a lot of these were issues that were cultural, that they couldn't talk about. There was no platform. This is about, we're talking 10, 12 years back. And I realized that there's a very large hole in the system, in the community, and everything. I've come across a lot of people that come from closed backgrounds, from closed societies, that have gone through a tremendous amount of life-challenging obstacles. They're some of the strongest people that I've met. They happen to be Muslim. And I think that's wonderful. And I think that they are the beacon of leadership and mentorship that not just Muslims, but everybody is seeking. So I really hope that through these stories, through the people that we show, through the representation that we're able to carve out, that we're able to impact the next generation.